Okay, we're ready to go. So today's workshop, we are covering multiple things. We're going to talk about how to get rid of no-shows when people forget about the appointment. We're going to talk about how to alley-oop more sales or more appointments. So when you're on a demo, how to go from there right next to another appointment. And then also how to sell some of the bigger sets, just some quick tips on selling more signatures and ultimate sets. So starting at the top. One of the things I've always really loved about this job is that you have control. You have so much control. You have control over things that you don't even know you have control over, right? So like, for instance, what's one of the things that you think in this job that you have the least amount of control over, that you can't control at all?
In this job?
Mm-hmm. Think about phone time. What's one of the things you have the least control over?
Getting hold of people.
If they pick up their phone or not.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one thing. But even that you have more control over than you think. So one of the ways, if you want to get a hold of more people, for that, this is a total side topic on there, but is qualifying your leads and saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, a lot of times, I spend a lot of time calling people who aren't available at that time. When's the best time to reach these people? Like if I was going to call them at a time, when's the best time to call them to get a hold of them? Now you still can't make them pick up, but you can call at times when you know people are more available, and you'll be able to set up more appointments there, right? So now no-shows, it's natural for you to get about 1 out of every 10 to 20 customers who forget about the appointment or have to reschedule. But if they reschedule, it should be something like my kid fell out of a tree and broke his arm and we have to go to the emergency room. Not just like, oh, we just can't do it for no good reason, right? Mm-hmm. If you're getting people that are canceling or rescheduling or something like that, that comes down to the phone approach. And that's all under your control. And so that's what we're going to go around. I'm going to give you a bunch of tips on the phone. Now, by the way, the phone, this is really good tips for any time you're talking to anybody for anything on the phone. But this specifically is going to be geared at how to talk to your potential customers so you can set up more appointments. But then once you schedule them, that they're there, right? Because that's annoying. Like you work hard, you do good phone time, and you show up, nobody's there, or they have to reschedule. That's kind of a bummer. So we want to eliminate that. So first tip is set demos for today and tomorrow. Today and tomorrow. One of the things I would really like to get going, and we might need a couple more AMs for this, so it's not all on Charlie, because Jesse comes from Puyallup and Ryan has class in the morning, but is morning phone jams where the office opens up at like 7 a.m. every morning. Every AM takes 1 or 2 days a week. And then what'll happen is you get 3 to 4 reps in every morning. Now the whole team doesn't come in every single morning, but most reps usually will come in like 2 days out of the week. And then that's scattered throughout the week. But setting up same day appointments makes it way easier because they don't forget about it. You don't give a lot of time for them the customer to forget about it or for something else to pop up in their schedule. So anything you set for the same day, you're going to have a much higher percentage that they're actually going to be there, like 90s. The next one, and this is a really easy one, but people don't do it all the time. And I think some of it's because we do phone jams. We get people excited as they set up the appointment, like, great, bye, see you, click, put me on the board, right? But you just sounded like it was such a quick thing for the customer. Think about from the customer's perspective. You're like, yeah, thanks, bye, see you then, click. And it sounds like you set up 1 million of them a day. And if you set up 1 million of them a day and they miss theirs, that's not that big of a deal. But if you just slow down and sincerely thank them. So like I usually would say something like, hey, Betty, I just want to say thank you so much. I have a pretty busy schedule, so I'm not able to fit in a ton of appointments this weekend. So this appointment really means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Now, if they know they're one of only a few appointments that you're doing, and you've shown a lot of gratitude and appreciation for that, they're not going to blow it off for some stupid reason. Like if they miss it, it's going to be a big reason. It's going to be something like, and if they do, they'll feel bad and they'll definitely reschedule, right? So slow down and really thank them. Plus, that just it shows how nice you are. You make you're nice. They're like, oh, that was really nice of them. They're looking forward to you. You already have made a good impression by just thanking them sincerely and showing appreciation. and especially during the school year when you get busy, or like I've been working so hard for this contest, Mrs. Jones, every appointment really means a lot to me. So thank you so much, right? Anything like that works really well. Okay. Hey, Charlie, how are you going? Next is when a customer says yes, or when they agree to do the appointment or they get the text, they're doing that because it's the recommendation is sending it to them, right? If it was just some random, like if you were door knocking or cold calling, the results would probably be drastically different. So the reason why our program works so well is because of that personal recommendation. So we want to emphasize that person on there, right? We want to really make sure that we talk about, you connect them. We've talked about this. You connect that recommendation as close as possible. It's not like, oh, I know her son. It's, I went to school with her son since I went to school with Joe since 5th grade, right? You connect them, but then also you have to make them want to help you, not feel like they have to help you. Some reps get this entitled feeling like, oh, they're a recommendation, so they have to do a demo with me. Like, no, they don't, right? They're doing this because they want to help, not because they have to in any way. So some things that you can do to make them want to help you. One is don't guilt or pressure them into it. And you know, the ways you could guilt or pressure them into it is having a super wimpy voice. Or if they say they're busy, saying something like, my manager's making me, I have to do 5 demos, otherwise I'm not going to hit my goal. Can you please, 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 please help me out tomorrow? Like that's, you don't want to be desperate. You don't want to try to guilt or pressure them into it. That's not, we don't do that, right? And you won't, if you follow the approaches, you won't do that, right? The approaches are designed, except the approach doesn't control the tone of your voice. So, right. So make sure you have a confident tone of voice. Build a rapport on the phone. Now, some easy, simple ways to build a rapport are by smiling, laughing, and being happy. You should sound cheerful. You should just smiling, sometimes standing up a little bit. So you have a little more like, I mean, I remember being a rep and my manager's like, you got to do morning phone time. And I am not a morning person. And especially in high school and college, I definitely was not a morning person. So he's like, call him at 7:15 in the morning. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I remember the first few times I'd do it, I would literally roll over in bed. I would be in bed like this looking at it. And it's like, you can tell somebody's laying down and half asleep with the tone of their voice, right? So don't do that. You know, have a lively voice there. Be confident on the phone. Right? When you're confident, that makes them feel comfortable. When you're nervous and wimpy, it makes them feel really unconfident. They're like, what are they so nervous about? Or like, oh my gosh, I got to watch what I say. Or also be polite on the phone. You got to be careful of some of the things. And I always tell this story. When you come into the office and you start doing more phone jams, you'll hear some of the good jokes to set up appointments. And one of the jokes, I remember it was my first summer as a manager, and I'd heard this from another rep. If a customer says, I'm just not interested, what you can say is, okay, well, Mrs. Jones, what's your favorite kind of cookie? And you're saying it with a smile, and they're like, I don't know, like chocolate chip or something. And you say, okay, how about this? How about when I come over, I'll bring over a whole bunch of chocolate chips. So that way I'll at least have something you're interested in, right? And smile. And they usually kind of laugh. And they're like, all right, like, so 3 or 6 better. Well, I was telling one rep how to say that. And another rep at the phone jam kind of overheard me. Let's just say he wasn't the sharpest knife in the block, right? So I'm walking around listening to reps do phone time, and a customer must have told him, hey, I'm just not interested. And all I heard him say was, do you want a cookie? Right? So that is not very polite. And he did not schedule that appointment, right? Just saying, do you want a cookie? Right? So make sure if you are doing 2 lessons there. 1, make sure if you are doing the jokes and stuff, you know how to do them, you practice them first. But 2, be polite to your customers, being a little rude and tactful. That you're never going to get an appointment if you're rude to them on the phone. So be sincere, and then be accurate and honest. A big key is everything you say should match up with what the referral says. So when you get to where you're like Stuart and you're showing a recommendation, and if you say, oh, Mary Jones, yeah, she's a good friend of mine, when really you just met Mary Jones as a referral, what'll happen is they'll say, that Susie is going to call back Mary and say, hey, your really good friend Stuart Sykes is coming over today. It's like, who? Your good friend Stuart. You mean the knife guy? Like, what do you mean? He said he was your good friend. It's like, I just met him. He sold me some knives. Now think about what Susie's view is of you when you show up. So there's no need to exaggerate or anything. You can just say, oh, I know Mary Smith, right? You know, so if, like, let's say I'm setting up an appointment with Jason. Charlie recommended me to Jason. Stuart recommended me to Charlie. Okay. So what I'm going to say is, hi, Jason, this is Ryan Casey. I don't think you know me, but you know Charlie Haas, right? Yeah, I know his friend Stuart Sykes. That's how I'm going to connect it.
Oh, okay.
That's it. And that's totally accurate, totally honest. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not saying, oh, I'm a real good buddy of Charlie's, or, oh, I'm really, if it was a recommendation, right? Now, one of the things that we're kind of backtracking, but you'll start doing appointments, and Stuart, you've probably already done this, where you're on like a 10th string referral, but you have some other closer connection to them. I remember doing that, where then I ended up, I went to high school with their kids. So then I would grab onto that connection. I'd say, oh yeah, I went to, I graduated with Sophie or whoever it was, right? Because if you can find a closer connection, use that, but never exaggerate. Always make sure you're accurate and honest there. And also with the scholarship, it's not necessarily what you say, but it's what they hear. So you could also be accurate, but they hear something different. You say, I'm working towards my scholarship, and they hear scholarship so many times that they think this is something for school. They don't realize it's a job. So we want to mention the scholarship, but you notice how it's in there once. I can also win a scholarship to help me pay for school. Boom. That's it, right? Some reps overemphasize that. So when they get there and they see that you're working a job, they're like, wait, I thought this was something for school, right? Even though the way you said it, you might have said it so it technically is accurate, but it came across the wrong way, right? So follow the approaches. They're designed for that. Don't over exaggerate, right? Where it's like, you don't have to buy anything. Actually, I don't even want you to buy stuff. Like, you really, really, really don't have to buy stuff. Like, you push them and then you're like, so do you want to get stuff? They're like, what? So don't over exaggerate. We mentioned in there, like, so you don't have to buy anything, I get paid just to show it, but you don't over exaggerate that stuff. And then use tonality. So what we want to do is walk through the approach. And I'm going to show you guys a couple places to use the tones there. So we say, hello, Betty, right? Hi, Betty, this is Ryan Casey. I don't think you know, but you know so-and-so, right? We connect them. They mention I'd be calling. Now, if they say they didn't, here's the first time where some of your tone is going to matter, is if they say they didn't, you go, oh, they didn't. And your tone, it's kind of more of a sigh than a laugh. But it sounds like, your tone should be like, oh, they were totally supposed to do that, right? That's what your tone of voice is saying. So it's like, oh, shoot. Well, they didn't? Okay, well, I must have beat her to it, right? And that's how, and if you do that right, a lot of times what they're going to say is like, oh, it's okay. I know Susie, she never is on time for stuff, right? That how it comes across. They almost feel a little sorry for you that you're put in this position where Susie was supposed to let her know that you were calling and she didn't. So now you're in this awkward position, and they have a little sympathy for you in that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how that tone of voice should come across. And then the next line is just very matter of fact. I was over to see her the other day. She mentioned she might be helping me out with something. And then when we say, don't worry, it's nothing scary, what do? Drop your voice. Don't worry, it's nothing scary. Think about sitting in a lecture hall and the teacher says something goofy and you're like, whispering to your buddy, like, yeah, that was weird or something like that. So it's like, don't worry, it's nothing scary. All right. Don't sound robotic on that. Say, don't worry, it's nothing scary, Mrs. Jones. It's like, if that part sounds really scripted, then it does sound weird. It sounds very canned and corny. So you got to drop your voice and it won't sound scripted. You say, don't worry, it's not scary. And big smile, right? Line, it comes across great. So as you know, I'm a student at Wherever, and this summer I'm working with a company to gain communication skills and experience. They also have some scholarships to help me pay for school. So this next sentence, the way it works, I just have to show a product to people and get their opinion on it. That makes it great because they don't have to buy anything. Now, when you get to actually, you're going to drop your voice again, same way. So that makes it great because you don't have to buy anything. Actually, you don't have to buy anything because I get paid just to show it. It's like, just, hey, you're not saying this, but what your tone of voice is saying is, hey, Mrs. Jones, between me and you, I get paid just to show this stuff, right? That's what your tone of voice is saying. So that's when you drop it. So that makes it great because you don't have to buy anything. Actually, you don't even have to be interested because I get paid just to show it. So you drop your voice. Now, here's the big thing is right where it says, but I really need to, your voice is going to spike and it's going to go super urgent, but I really need to, right? And the tone of voice I describe this with is you have to go to the bathroom on a road trip tone of voice. So imagine your road trip down to Southern California. Okay. You're in the back seat, your buddy's driving, and you say, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. If you say it like that, he's going to be like, cool, rest stop in 30 minutes. Right. But if you're in the back seat, you're like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom. Like, he's like, okay. You know, he's going to find a spot really fast. So you want to like, I have to go to the bathroom urgently on a road trip type thing. And the more fluctuation there is in your tone of voice, the better, right? The more, even if you sound excited, but you always sound excited, you're still monotone. And monotone is a huge turn off. So you like fluctuation in voice really gets points across much, much better than having just one solid tone of voice, whether that's a low tone of voice or an excited, it doesn't matter. One tone is still one tone. It's still monotone, right? Mono means one, right? It doesn't mean boring. It means one tone, right? So, so it'd sound like this. That makes it great because you don't have to buy anything. Actually, you don't have to be interested because I get paid to show it. But I really need to do 5 appointments by Sunday. So you see that. Matter of fact, drop voice, boom, pick it up right there. And so it's really emphasizing the right points, and it builds urgency, it connects. And I was going to be in Bellevue tomorrow. I could stop by really quick at 3 o'clock. Would 4:30 be better for you? Okay. So that's it. Now, the last couple of things I'm going to explain. I didn't explain these in advanced training too. So I'm going to explain them now. The penny. So you set up the appointment, do everything, and you say, oh, Betty, I forgot. Can you do me one more big favor? And they're like, okay, what's that? I'm like, can you just tape a penny to your refrigerator? And they're like, tape a penny to my fridge. They're like, what's it for? I'm like, oh, I'll show you when I get there. Okay. Now, how often do people get in their refrigerator? Multiple times a day. Every time they get in their refrigerator, what are they going to see?
Penny.
Every time they see the penny, what are they going to think about?
Yes.
Do you think they're going to forget about the appointment?
No.
I remember running training, and this kid was like, I remember that. I remember we had this penny on the fridge for like 3 days. I kept asking my mom, what was the penny for? What was the penny for? What was the penny for? And then they had a Cutco person coming over, right? And she's like, I don't know, right? So now the other thing is the smiley face. And so when the smiley face is, we say, okay, can you just go ahead and jot down, my name was Charlie Haas, I'll be there at 3 o'clock. And you just go ahead and put a big smiley face next to it, so that way you recognize me when I get there, right? Now, old folks love corny jokes, right? Someone will laugh. But even if they don't laugh, here's what happens, right? They're looking at their calendar. It's 3 days later, and they see Jason Wang on there. They're like, Jason. Who's Jason? Do I know? Oh, that was that knife guy coming over, right? And depending on how your phone call goes, they may or may not remember the tone of your phone call or anything. Yeah. But when they see Jason with a big smiley face next to it, they're going to be like, oh, that was that goofy kid on the phone, right? And it already lifts up their expectation for you when you get there too. So there's more behind the smiley face than just like being corny jokes on the phone, right? It's when they actually write it down and they see that changes some of their view of when the day comes and they're, oh, that was that funny person on the phone there, right? Like Hal Elrod, the guy who wrote the Miracle Morning here, he's got really spiky hair. So he would say, just go ahead and draw a big smiley face with spiky hair. So that way you recognize me when I get there, right? And so he was a little more specific. So you can do that too, right? Then maybe you'll write a book and become a famous millionaire author too. But no guarantees from the smiley face for that though. Okay. All right. How are we doing on time? Man, I was going to teach like all sorts of stuff. I was like all excited to teach a bunch of stuff, but I forgot how long just that one teaches or it takes. Okay, I'll give you one handling objections joke one, okay? So the how long it takes, right? Well, there's a few different versions you can do. So I'm just going to do the really short version is you say, you're still going to use your phone approach, right? But before this, you're going to say, oh, Mrs. Jones, well, the short version, it takes about 4 to 6 hours, but I'll bring a sleeping bag just in case. And they're like, what? And they're like, no, I'm just kidding. I'll Mrs. Jones. And then you go right into it's just, it doesn't like take long. I'll be in and out before you know, I get paid just to show up. Plus Betty had a fun and lot. So then you go right to the approach. So they say, so how long does it take? Say, well, the short version's like 4 to 6 hours, but I'll bring a sleeping bag just in case. And they're like, what? Like, no, I'm just kidding, Mrs. Jones. And then they laugh. They think it's hilarious. And then you just finish with what it's in the approach there, right? And there's lots of other jokes you can do, like when people ask what Cutco is and stuff, you can do ones. But generally a good joke on the phone, and this is good for you guys, is like a one-liner then into the approach. It's not a totally different thing, right? It's like another example is what's the product. It's called Cutco. Have you ever heard of it? They say no. You say, oh, it's a bowl you put on your head and you get a perfect haircut every time. And they're like, really? I'm like, no, I'm just kidding, Mrs. Jones. It's some really good items for the kitchen outdoors. And then you go right into the approach, right? But then you show up with a plastic bowl and they think it's hilarious, right? And they really laugh and stuff. So there's lots of different ones there, okay? Okay, so that's the phone approach. Alley-oop. I'm going to go really fast with the alley-oop. So in 2003, we started having customers call all the recommendations before you show them. When I was a rep, they would just write them down and you call them. Nobody ever knew you were calling, right? Very, very rarely would they do unless they bumped in the grocery store. So in 2003, we had them start calling, but we found that customers were terrible at calling, right? They really wanted to help you out, but they were just bad at it. They're like, this really nice girl, Ella, came and sold me all these knives, and I thought they were all going to be like $4,000, but really they were like $1,000, and so I got the $500 set, and they're so good. How are your knives? And the person on the phone's like, I think my knives are good. It's okay. So what we did is we coached the customer on what to say. First, we said what not to say. Don't say I'm selling knives. It sounds weird. You don't have to tell them the price. That's my favorite part. And you don't even have to ask if they're interested because I get paid either way, right? So just say a nice guy named Jason came over to show me a product called Cutco. He's a student at University of Washington, wherever he's going. The appointment was fun and easy. You don't have to buy anything because you get paid just to show it. Is it okay if he gives you a call? Right? And instead of, is it okay if he gives you a call? Well, actually, you say that. And when they say, yeah, it's fine, he's like, he's actually here. You just want to talk to him. And so as soon as what happens when they say this, you can kind of hear the like, is it cool if you, okay, great. And then what you want to do is you look at them, your eyes get big, you stick out your hand, and that's it. You go, oh, and you do like the monkey sound, oh, right, that's it. And they're like, oh, here he is right here, or here she is right here. And then here's your phone approach from that point. Awesome, Betty. I could actually stop by in 20 minutes, or would tomorrow at 3 o'clock be better? Or I could stop by in 20 minutes, or would an hour be better? So, and that's it. So you, at the end, so the way you alley-oop is after you've gotten your leads, you just say, Mrs. Jones, do you know anybody that's actually home right now? Because I still have 3 more appointment spots today that I haven't filled. I'm really trying to get a full day of work in. Who do you think would be home right now, right? Is there any way we could call them? And then if you want to, you can use your peeler and say, hey, if we can get an appointment or 2 set up, I'll give you a free peeler. So you can use free peelers because it says ask how you can win a free peeler, right? So I had an assistant manager who sold 22 weeks in a row over 1,000. Now he was a full-time assistant manager, which means he was in the office about 4.5 days a week during the summer. So he had one day that was his sales day, and that was Saturday. And so what he would do is from the office, either Thursday or Friday, every week, he would schedule 1 appointment for Saturday. That's it. Saturday morning appointment. That was the only appointment he'd scheduled for the whole week. And then he would do that appointment. And there was a few Saturdays on that first appointment, he sold $1,000. He was done for the week. That was his goal, right? Then if he didn't sell $1,000 on that appointment, guess what he did? He would alley-oop and he'd go to another appointment. And then if he hit 1,000 by the end of the day, he was done. If he didn't, guess what he'd do? He'd alley-oop. So I remember there was a couple of Saturdays where it took him like 4. There was one, it took him 5. I remember he's like, dude, it's like piece order. He finally got that 5th demo, but he could just alley-oop one to the next. He was that good at it to where he could do it. And then I think there was like 7 weeks where his car was in the shop. So do you know how he got to and from his appointments? There's no virtuals back then.
Mrs. Jones driving?
No. Field trained. Right? So he was in FSM making half. He's like, hey, do you want to come see me sell a homemaker and do that? And the reps were like, yeah. And he's like, all right, pick me up here. And then the new reps were fired up because they got to see how to alley-oop, how to sell. He was a good rep and was really worth the new rep watching him. But then he got to ride to his demos, right? So there's lots of ways to problem solve and get around stuff. But alley-ooping is a great way to schedule, especially if you don't have anything else for the rest of the day. You're in a cool neighborhood where you're like, man, I want more leads around here. Like, who else do you know that's right here? And if you're further away from your house, so if you're like, I remember I lived in Olympia and I was doing an appointment in Tacoma and the appointment finished really early and my team meeting was in Tacoma. It was where my office was, but it wasn't for like another 3 hours. I was like, I have like 3 hours before I have to be in my office. Do you know anybody else that would be available around here? and it was like Tacoma Country Club. And she's like, yeah, no problem. It was Lori Kelly. And she recommended the other guy. He bought an all knife set, right? So, and that was just before the team meeting. But I gave specifics that made it make sense. I'm like, I'm sitting here, I got 3 hours before my meeting and I'm a half hour away from home. Is there anybody, you know, that would, it would make sense that I could show right now? Okay. Last thing. So that's alley-ooping. Okay. Second to last thing, because we also have a contest.
When they're calling to alley-oop, do you give them this?
Yes. Yeah. I just give, so I keep one of these in my blue book and then you just put it in front of them and that way they have it there. And that's it. We used to give you lots of these because reps would have followed because it was all calls. So you just leave it with them, but you just need one to hang on to, right? Okay. So big sets, really quick, 4 keys on how to sell big sets. Number 1, and this is the most important one before we go to the next ones. First one is you have to know that customers buy and will use the big sets. If you don't understand that point, the rest of the tips won't even matter. But as a young student who has never probably bought anything that's $2,000 for your kitchen, you have to understand that point. But if you just go look at people's kitchens, you're going to see a lot of customers who have spent $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, up to $7,000 on their fridge. But majority of refrigerators you see probably cost $1,500 to $2,000, right? Ovens, the majority of ovens that you're going to see probably cost $1,000 to $2,000. The majority of them. Now you're going to see some in the really nice houses that they're $5,000 to $7,000. Have you ever seen a refrigerator that's glass so you can see through it?
Yeah.
And those are like 10 grand.
Those are so expensive.
Right. And so people spend that type of stuff on their kitchen. Right. Now, also, if you haven't watched the names and uses video that I have out there, make sure you check that out. But a lot of people, it's like, oh, I wouldn't use all those knives. Well, they don't have them. Right? If they had those knives over the last 10 years, there's probably a good chance they would have used them. Or if somebody has also taught them how to use them, right? And that's what you're there for, is to show them how to use them. So if somebody has a signature and ultimate, like I, as a single bachelor guy going through my mid to late 20s and early 30s, I used a gourmet set, right? On top of the homemaker. I like to barbecue and stuff. And I didn't even have a family and I used that stuff, but I knew how to use them. Right? I'm like, oh, Hardy slicer. You cannot not have a Hardy slicer. And once you use the cleaver once, yeah, you got to have a cleaver because it's so much fun to use, right? So if you teach them how to use them, but they will use them. So that's the first tip, is know they will buy and they will use them. And number 2, Styles gave this tip, bless you, on the at the rooftop there, but has changed the names of the set. Nobody really wants the ultimate of anything, but people buy complete sets. So the ultimate is the complete set. It has the complete set of knives, has all our knives. The homemaker set, remember the homemaker set is called the homemaker because it came out in the 50s, and that's what housewives used to refer to themselves as. I'm a homemaker. Nobody says that anymore, right? Some people might even be offended by that at this point, right? So we just say it's the basic set, right? If you don't cook that much, it's just the basics. And then the family set is in between. You're like, hey, I don't know if I need complete. Like, I don't cook a ton, but we have kids, so we do more than just the basics. If I have a family, give me the family set, right? Those are titles that they'll identify with more. Basic, complete, family, okay? Now, here's where I'm going to actually do something that is crazy, and we're going to put something into the manual, right? All right. Okay. The manual's perfect. The manual's great, but I'm going to actually give you an extra line in the manual. So on page 9, we're going to say, instead of saying, let me show you our most popular set, you're going to say, let me show you our best. No, this is an older one, right? So you're going to say, let me show you our best sets. And you're going to say the basic set. And you might want to put this on side notes so you don't scribble a bunch of stuff in there, and then you can kind of add stuff back in. But you're going to say our basic set. Okay, so love this page. So you get here. Okay, let me show you our best sets. Our basic set is just the basics for anybody that has a kitchen. So I'd write this on scratch paper, and you can kind of fill this into your manual so it's not copy all over the names and uses on this, right? So this is our, Ms. Jones, instead of let me show you our most popular set, you say, let me show you our our is how many people do you know when they cook, they take every knife out of the block and they lay it on the counter? Does anybody do that? So it looks overwhelming, right? So I don't like to be like, here's our complete set. So they're like, nobody identifies with it, right? So all I do is just show them the picture, right? So you say, our basic set, Mrs. Jones, is the basics, just for anybody that has a kitchen. Our complete set has all the knives for anybody that actually cooks. Our complete set has all the knives for anybody that actually cooks. And then I just flip to the signature page. And I try not to have this way extended. And so I said, and then our signature is our family set. And that's for anybody who's kind of in between. It has the basics, and this is a key line. The signature set has a very key line. It has all the basics plus the 3 most popular customer requested knives. The 3 most popular customer requested knives, which are the cheese knife, which I don't know where my cheese knife is. Yeah, the cheese knife, the Hardy slicer, and the Petite Santoku. So that's, by the way, that's how the signature set came out. So many people are buying homemakers, and then they'd buy extra pieces, and there was no place to put them. And so so the company found out what are the most popular pieces that people are adding onto the homemaker, and they ran the statistics on it. Like, these are the 3 most popular pieces. So let's make a set that has those 3 pieces. People are always buying more table knives, so let's put a room for more table knives in there. Now let's extend it so they could upgrade to steak knives, and then everybody gets shears, so let's make room for the shears too. And that's how the signature set came about in 2010. Okay, so from the top, it would say, let me show you our, instead of most popular set, let me show you our best sets, Mrs. Jones. Our basic set is just the basics for anybody who has a kitchen. Our complete set has all the knives for anybody that actually cooks. And then we have a family set for anybody's in between. And that has the basics plus the 3 most popular customer requested knives. And you can also get steak knives, which are very cool. Now, that also brings a good point. You got to have a steak knife, because you do the leather test with a table knife, and then you say, oh, we also have steak knives. Mrs. Jones, which one do you like better, the table knives or the steak knives? And if they say steak knives, that means you know your floor is a signature set with steak knives. Now, instead of right before it says the great thing, right? So this is all the same thing. You're going to say, if you're considering a set, I would write this on your side notes too. If you were considering a set, would you prefer the basic set, the family set, or the complete set? Now, here's what you want to do. You always say it in that order: the basic, the signature, or the family, or the complete. Anytime you're giving people a choice, whichever one you really would like them to pick, say that one last. That's the one they're going to remember the most. And when you say it, I want you to eyes light up and big smile. So if you were considering a set, would you prefer the basic set, the family set, and then watch me here, or the complete? And you big smile in there. And all you really want them to do is to choose the complete if they were set. I don't actually buy, but I want them to at least consider it, because even if they don't get it, when I go over the price of that one and then I go over the price of the other ones, it's going to make the other 2 sound tiny. So I always want them to at least consider the complete set if possible, right? But either way, I'm going to tell them the prices of all of them, okay?
Wait, so if they say like signature, you're going to tell them the price of the ultimate?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Just like that. So, is everybody clear with what we just added on that part, right? So then I'm going to write these up just so you can see this here. So, well, the great thing, Mrs. Jones, is that set doesn't cost $4,000, right? So they said the family set. Our complete set, and I'll write complete. I have full. I'm going to squeeze it here. Normally I would write 5 months. I didn't use as much time. Our foot is $2,929. Now, if they said complete set, would I say $2,929?
$29.29.
I'd say $29.29. But they picked the signature set, so I'm getting a little more advanced here, which is only $648 of the 5 pay. The family set, the one that you like, That one's only $21.75, which is only $482 on a 5K. Do you see the difference? Anytime you're ever going to say a price that's bigger, you make it bigger. So the great thing, Mrs. Jones, is that set doesn't cost $4,000. Actually, it doesn't cost as much as Woosoff, which is $3,225. Right? Our complete set is only $2,929, which is $648 over 5 months, no interest. Our family set, the one you like, that one's only $21.75, which is only $42 on the 5 months. Right? Now, am I going to say the basic set one?
No.
Why not? Because they didn't pick the basic set. Mm-hmm. So I'm only going to give them the price of the one they picked and the ones above it. Right? Now, if they said they like the basic set, I'd say, oh, and then the basic set, that one's only $12.73.
Do you say 2 above or just 1 above?
All.
Okay.
Right?
Got it.
Anything that's above it, I give it. Because now, look at that. When they're looking at that, and what'll happen when you do this, they'll buy homemakers and apologize for it. They do that. They'll say, you know what, it's like, we really just don't cook that much. We're probably just more of the basics. Like, it'd be really nice because you had that spark about the complete set. They're like, we really like that. And you just want to make them feel great about it either way. You say, hey, babe, no worries. I'm like, if you just do the basics, that's a perfect set for you. That basic set's great. And they're like, okay, cool. We'll just do the basics. Homemaker, right? Where if you're only showing the homemaker, there's not a lot of reference. So all you're really doing is just showing these sets. You're just putting in front of them and making sure you keep it as brief and as simple as possible. You don't need to go off on like a whole 30-minute explanation of the complete set. Here's our best sets. Our basic set is for anybody that has a kitchen. Our complete set has all the knives for anybody that actually cooks. And our family set is kind of in for somebody in between. It has all the basics plus the 3 most popular requested customer knives there. Now, the great thing, Mrs. Jones, but now if you were considering a set, what set would you prefer? The basic set, the family set, or the complete set, right? The family set? Okay, great. Now, the great thing, Mrs. Jones, is that set doesn't cost $4,000. In fact, doesn't cost as much as Woosoff, which is $3,225. The complete set one, which is a little bit bigger than what you like, is only $2,929, which most of our customers use our no interest investment options, which is only $648 a month on the over 5 months with no interest. The family set, the one you like, that one's only $21.75, right? Which is only $482 over the 5 months. I'm writing all this down. Now, let me tell you about our buy now bonus, and I just keep following with the manual, right? And now, let's say, so the last key is there is just drop down. So right here are your stairs right now: homemaker, galley, starter, and pieces. What's the company's average order?
$350.
$350. Do you know why it's $350 right here?
Needs to be started at home.
It's because we start at the homemaker, and there's a few options on each one. And in sales in general, not Cutco, sales in general, most people buy after they've seen 5 options. So they see a couple options each one. That's why that's the average order, because that's average for sales, right? So now what we're doing is we're adding steps, ultimate signature. And what we're doing is we're giving the option to start on one of these ones. So I don't even care if they buy the ultimate set, but I want to try to get at least as many people to say they're interested in it, because if I start here, I know that 5 steps down, now my average order is in this vicinity, which is more like a 600 to 700 average order, right? And so that's how reps have bigger average orders when they start higher, right? And so you might have heard Christina, she only starts on the ultimate set. So you gotta have a little more confidence with that. It's a little bit more of a demo shift. So I don't like that as an initial switch from what you're doing from your training manual. What I just taught you is just a couple little basic lines of explaining those, and everything else flows just with the training manual. It's really an easy transition. But you wanna practice those couple lines, write it in so it makes sense and it's not so it's sloppy all over the place. But that will help you sell more signatures and ultimates. You'll sell some of those, but what it'll really do is it'll help you sell way more homemakers, right? And then by the time you get down to a galley set or a starter set, it's like pocket change for them, right? So when you get down to a starter set from this, you say, so Mrs. Jones, the essential set over the 5 months is like $120, which is like $30 a week. You were just talking about $3,000. Now you're talking about 1% of that, right? It helps you. And so that will, when your floor is like $300-400, and the best benefit of this, right? I know all of you are thinking, I'm going to sell a ton now, but the best benefit from this is that your customers get sets, because the customers who buy sets are the ones who like Cutco the most. Every once in a while, you'll come across somebody who's like, oh, I have Cutco, I don't really like it that much. And you're like, what? Why? It's because they bought a trimmer and they try to cut everything with it. And after 3 years, they dulled the crap out of it. And they're like, this doesn't work very well for watermelon. Well, first of all, it's not supposed to work for watermelon anyways. Second of all, you've used it for everything over the last 3 years. But when people have a set, they actually use the right knife for the right job, and they love their stuff, right? I wouldn't like using a wrench as a hammer either. I'd say this is the worst hammer I've ever had if I was using a wrench. But Cutco is so good that they'll do that, because even a table knife is sharper than their other stuff. So they will use the wrong tool for the wrong job, right? Just because it's better than their stuff. But eventually it wears out and it's not as effective. So helping your customers get more sets is going to have you have happier customers. Okay. All right. So that is it. That is it for the workshop. I'm going to give a little contest now. So I am going to stop the recording so you don't know all the free stuff we're giving away. But here we go.
Jeez.